Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I'm Jim Stump still, and Bible says a lot of things, but I was reminded of a statement or a saying that's in the Bible more than once, I believe, and I'm going to correct it to use the politically correct pronouns. Right? Bible says something to the effect that it's a foolish woman who destroys her own house. It's a foolish woman who destroys her own house. We might change that to read, it's a foolish person who destroys their own house, if we want to be politically correct these days and use the pronouns that we're being requested to use, right? It's a foolish person who destroys their own house. I remember talking with this gentleman. He had four almost grown daughters. The last one had just entered college, right? And at that point, the man wanted out of the relationship, out of the marriage relationship. Um, he had a very good job, well-paid man, professional guy. He made good money, and he told his wife, he said, "Look," he says, "I will support you forever, right? I will pay all the girls' college expenses." That's quite a gift right there, right? He's going to pay for all of that. He's going to take care of them until they can get on their own. And he was going to take care of the house expenses and etc. Give the wife money to live on, etc. And he was going to go live someplace else. And he was going to start filing for divorce because he simply couldn't stand it any longer. And what was going on? Apparently, this wife complained about everything. I've talked about bad roommates in college and other people who behave badly. She was one of those. The title, The Taming of the Shrew, comes to mind because that's what she was like. I met her, and when we did the sessions together, because the man came in with his wife and they discussed things, and um, he said the wife requested couples counseling. He said, I agree to it and I will pay for it and I will go all the way through it for as long as anyone thinks it's beneficial. But I don't want you, the wife, to misconstrue my agreeing to this because I I definitely want out of this marriage. I can't take it anymore. I can't live like this. So don't think we're going to get back together. We can figure out how to get along with the kids. We can figure out how to get along with each other going forward. We can set financial arrangements, etc., etc., etc. But I want out of this marriage. I've been in it for 24, 25 years, whatever it was. And I just can't take it anymore. He said, I've stayed all these years because of my daughters. He said, I love my kids. I wanted to keep my family together, so I stayed. But I can't stand the way that I'm being treated. Apparently, this wife was constantly complaining and finding fault with him. Guy was really smart, good looking man, well dressed. He was athletic to a degree, so he was healthy. And she kept finding fault with him, all sorts of little things, picking on him constantly. And he would say, I don't want to argue. Please, let's not go there. Let's not get into this. And she would still go on, raise her voice, and start screaming and hollering and complaining, right? And he said, I just want some peace. He said, it's not another woman. He said, that's the furthest thing from my mind. I just want some peace before I die. He wasn't all that old. I guess he was, I don't know, 50, between 50 and 55, if I remember correctly. So there are things he wanted to do with his life, and he wanted to be free of all the nagging and the bickering and the complaining and all that stuff because it really made him feel bad. He was a soft-spoken guy, kind of gentle and sensitive, masculine in many ways, but when it came to his wife and ladies in general, he more or less did what they liked him to do. He wanted to keep them happy and keep the complaining down. But this woman, she just kept going at him. And finally he said, the last daughter has entered college. She's over there living at the college, so she's not home. Now's a good time for me to step out, right? We stopped and we thought about that thing. Now, the wife did not want a divorce, right? She wanted to keep her home, her community, and her relationships in society, etc. And the husband said, fine, keep all that. I don't care. I just don't want to live there anymore. I don't want to subject myself to this stuff. And we're thinking about that old story. I imagine you all heard of it. It was a story, it's told many ways. Sometimes some people say that it was a frog and a scorpion. Other people say it was a turtle and a scorpion. But let's say it was the turtle. The story goes that the turtle was sitting along the side of the pond, and one day a scorpion came up to him. And the scorpion said to the turtle, look, I need to get to the other side of the pond, but it's way too far to walk around. Can you give me a ride across the water, right? And the turtle said, no. He said, because once we get out to the deepest part of the middle of the pond, you will bite me and I will drown and we'll both die, right? And the scorpion said, why would I do that? If I bite you, then we're both going to die. I would never do that. So the turtle said, okay, I guess that makes sense. I guess you won't do it. So he said, let's go. And the turtle gets in the water and the scorpion crawls up on his back. And then the turtle swims out to the middle of the pond. And in the deepest part, the scorpion bites the turtle. The turtle begins to be paralyzed and he starts to sink in the water and he's going to drown. And he says to the scorpion, he says, why did you do that? Now we're both going to die. And the scorpion says to the turtle, he says, you knew what I was like before we started. You already knew. That's my nature. I can't change it. That's kind of what was happening with this woman, this wife. That was her nature. She couldn't change it, right? But she wrote this long, sentimental, heartfelt letter to him. She wrote it out in longhand. And in one of our sessions, she read the thing, right? She just started reading from the top. The husband is as bored as can be. He's like, he's enduring this letter that this woman is reading to him and all that. And he says, that's fine. He says, I know all these things. You've been telling me these things for years and years and years, that you like a family and you want to keep it together and you want to be a better wife and you'll try harder and all that. He says, but it hasn't happened and I just can't continue any longer, right? So they finally separated and they decided that since they weren't going to stay together, they discontinued coming to counseling and like that. But before they left, I discussed with each of them, because not only did we talk together as a couple and a counselor, but I spent time talking to them individually. So I'd meet with the husband one week and I'd meet with the wife another week to discuss the issues. Why would this woman destroy her own home? Now, mind you, the 4 daughters, when we asked the 4 daughters about this, about the parents getting divorced, the 4 daughters kind of looked at each other and they all said together, we thought he should have left a long time ago, because they were in that house and they heard the bickering that their mother was giving to their father constantly, and they didn't enjoy it any more than he did. They didn't want to listen to it. They thought that she was completely out of line and out of control, right? And everyone told her that. Said, Mom, dial it down. Dad isn't doing anything wrong. Why do you go at him like this? And the woman couldn't stop. And so I was talking to the woman, and as you can guess, and is really pretty obvious, there was a reason for her behavior. Somewhere along the way, right, she had some sort of abuse. I suspect it was emotional abuse in the family, right? All that stuff, that anger, that disagreeableness, and venting and all, was programmed into her at an early age. That's how she was treated. That's how she grew up. That's what she thought relationships were. And the whole pattern was ingrained in her. That's who she was. And she said she couldn't change. She would try to behave better, etc., etc., etc. But she really couldn't change who she was deep down, emotionally and to the core. And there it was. That's why a person can destroy their own home, because they were coming up with hurts and ills that are stored away, resentments and pain that they can't let out. Of course, I suggested to the lady that she get her own individual counselor and work through these things, not to save the marriage, but so that she could be rid of it and hopefully be happier. Apparently, she was kind of snippy and, annoying to potential friends as well. She didn't have a lot of friends and she didn't do a lot of things socially. She knew a lot of people and was involved in various activities around the community, etc., but always in a group, not with a best friend or with someone she could go share coffee with or tea and discuss life problems, etc. She didn't have those kinds of friends, right? She had no desire to get involved in another relationship. As far as she was concerned, that was a horrible marriage, and she wanted to keep it together for the sake of the marriage and the family and her religious beliefs and etc. etc. But she really wasn't happy there either. She didn't want him to go, but she didn't want to stay as well. I suggested she talk to someone and find out why she behaved the way she behaved. Now, in a situation like that, I'll bet it was going to take a good amount of time because there were a lot of layers to sift through and a lot of things to get out of the way before she could release the pain. What happens with us as human beings, we repress all that negativity. We push it down so we don't have to think about it and we don't have to feel it. But that doesn't mean it is gone. It's not. It's there. It's like a volcano. The volcano is always hot. The lava is always boiling. It never stops boiling just because it's not spewing out of the top of the volcano. But it's still there. It's still hot and it's still affecting everything around the area. All that stuff inside of her affected the way she behaved, and she didn't seem to be able to stop it. It's a foolish person who destroys their own home. There's a reason for it. If anybody has resentments or negativity in them, if they have been told often that they're not nice to be with, that people don't enjoy the conversation with them, etc., etc., you might want to stop and figure that out. Talk to somebody and release those things, because there's a whole lot you can destroy in your life and you don't even know you're doing it, because as far as you're concerned, you're just living the way you're supposed to live. You're being who you're supposed to be. This is the type of person I am, take it or leave it. And a whole lot of people don't want to take it. So, anything like that out there? Anybody going through anything like that? I mean, it sort of borders on narcissism. It's not necessarily narcissism, but it's going off that way because it was created by usually emotional abandonment, all sorts of deep hurt that can never go away. Anybody out there do that kind of behavior? Do you recognize even a little bit of it in yourself, or do you see it in other people? And what do you do with it? What's your reaction to it? If you know somebody who does that, have you tried to help them and allow them to talk about whatever's going on so they can stop destroying their home? Any of those things? I run into this stuff all the time, and I'm always looking for solutions and answers, because each solution, each answer is going to be individualized. It's going to be what works for that person. So I can always use more experience, shared experience, and wisdom and knowledge and insight. If you have anything about that, please put it in the comments below or send me a nice long email. You can reach us at counselorscouch101@mail.com. counselorscouch101@mail.com. And I thank you all for your participation. It helps give us something to talk about that's relevant. Thanks for dropping by. I look forward to reading your comments and emails, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Take care.